Hi, so what I'm going to do is go through how to make this. This is a panel heater. It's actually just painted on a bit of MDF and it's about 2 square feet, something like that, and it's made with this new heat resistant ink that we've done. Now, this has been on for about an hour and it's at 1.5 amps and 23 volts. So we've got about 35 watts pulling through that at the moment. And it's at 44 degrees centigrade. So yeah, that's really quite warm. Now you can see I'm touching it with my hand, no problem at all, because it's got a protective plastic coating on it. But we're going to go through how to make it, and that's what we're going to do next. So making a panel radiator, or in fact making a radiator anywhere, is just stunningly easy with this heat resistant ink. All you really do is choose yourself a suitable material. Now, because it's going to be a house radiator, we're going to be hitting around about 46 degrees centigrade. So just about anything will do. A piece of plastic, in my case a piece of MDF, some plasterboard, absolutely anything. You could paint this on your wall, you could paint it on your ceiling, you could paint it on your floor. I imagine if your dog stayed still long enough you could paint your dog, I don't really know. But you certainly can paint this on a huge range of things. So what we're doing really here is saying goodbye to radiators, because if you don't want a panel radiator, say you want to heat your home but you want everything to be invisible, well, you just paint it straight on the wall. As long as you paint over with the silicone colour of any colour you choose, then you're just not going to be able to see this thing and yet still keep your house warm. Now the actual process is really, really simple. All you do is take whatever it is you're going to paint, let's say it's your wall or your piece of wood or your piece of plastic, whatever it is, and cut yourself a piece of copper tape so that you've got a little tail on it so you can connect up later. Measure it out and lay the copper strip down. Then we just bend that over to make a connection point. There's lots of connection points you could make. You could screw a bolt into there if you wanted so that it made a connection. You could put a crimp on it. There's loads of ways you can actually make that connection point. But that's all you do with it. Then you do the other side. Now you need to remember that there is a voltage drop across this thing. Now when the whole thing's painted, it depends how thick your paint covering is, it depends how many coats you put on it, but it's going to be somewhere between 1 and 10 ohms, which is not massive, but you're still going to get a voltage drop across there. So if you make it more than about 600 millimeters wide, then the voltage drop is going to be significant enough that it'll go outside of the wiring regulations. Certainly in Britain, the electrician's wiring regulations say that something like this applied to about 40 volts is safe. If you go over that, then you've probably got to start worrying a little bit, or certainly you've got to do a few calculations to make sure that you're staying safe. So all you do is pop it on there like that, take your paint, and paint it on. Now it paints beautifully actually. You can see it just covers it really nicely, and it's just applied with a paintbrush. Now if I was doing this as an actual demonstration, actual thing that I wanted to use, I'd put a bit of masking tape down here so that the edges were nice and neat. Now the coverage of this is round about, depending again on your coat thickness and the absorbance of your base material, sort of 15-30 millilitres will do you this entire thing. So something around about there, 15-30 millilitres of paint will make you a 2-foot square panel radiator. And you just paint it on and leave it to dry. Once it's dry, you can test the resistance of it. When you get just below 10 ohms or so, it's done. So this will need about 2 or 3 coats. So this has had its 2 or 3 coats and it's had time to dry. It takes about an hour between each coat to dry, again depending on drying conditions. It's a nice warm, dry, sunny day here. I put it outside and it took about an hour and it was dry. When you've done that, you need to put something over the top of it. I use this stuff, which is just cling film. It's the plastic covering that you get for putting in cupboards or putting over windows to make them misty. That's all it is. So I unrolled a piece of that and then smoothed it over. Now, if you're doing this on a wall, like I say, what you would do is paint it with a coat of silicone paint, something like that. That's it. That's your panel heater. Now what we need to do is supply it with a voltage. Now, this one can be run from either an AC or a DC volts. It's around about 2 square feet. It's got a resistance of around about 10 ohms. So we need to be relatively careful about what kind of voltage we supply it. Now I've got this thing, which is a benchtop power supply. It allows me to alter the voltage up to about 30 volts and the amperage up to about 3 amps. So I can control the voltage I put through this to work out how much voltage I need to put through it in order to get it to heat to the temperature that I want it to heat to. But you can also calculate it if you want. And all you do is connect up the leads. And then just turn it on. So there you go, how to make a panel heater. Now the resistance of this is actually 10 ohms across the thing, and there's no reason it couldn't be just painted directly on your wall. So you can paint it on a bit of MDF, you can paint it directly on your wall. If you painted it directly on your wall, what you'd do is paint over it with a coloured silicone-based paint, so it could be the same as your wall. So it really could make these things absolutely anywhere. We're talking goodbye radiators here. If you don't have a radiator and you don't want to install one, you put on a couple of copper strips, paint it black, leave it to dry, paint it with the colour that you want, and you've got a radiator. Now, I'm running this off, it's because it's warm, I'm running this off a DC power supply. It's a benchtop power supply here, because it allows me to control the voltage and the amps so that I've got quite a bit of control over it. If you're going to make these kind of things, you need to make sure that you do that. But this can run off AC as well as DC, no problem at all, but you would need to restrict the current going into there using some kind of restriction. So a light dimmer would probably do just as well actually to run that thing. And that will burn all day, all night. And as I say, it's been going an hour already and there's just nothing wrong with it, it's quite cool. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that and thank you very much for watching.